The research facility on Kepler 442b hummed with a quiet efficiency that had made the Zephyrian Empire the dominant force in this galaxy arm. Dr. Vexhari examined the containment unit with her 4 eyes, each one focusing on a different aspect of the creature within. The human male paced back and forth in the reinforced habitat, his movements sharp and predatory despite the comfortable furnishings they had provided. Subject displays continued aggression patterns, she dictated to her recording device. 47 standard cycles in captivity, and it still attempts to breach containment daily. Remarkable persistence for such a primitive neural structure. The human had been captured during a routine scouting mission to the 3rd planet of the Sol system. Their species showed promising physical capabilities, but their violent nature made them unsuitable for integration into civilized galactic society. The Zephyrian High Council had designated them as savage primitives after reviewing footage of their endless wars and environmental destruction. Dr. Vexenri, her research partner, approached with a datapad clutched in her manipulator arms. The behavioral modification experiments have failed again. Chemical therapy, neural stimulation, even complete memory suppression. Nothing reduces the creature's inherent aggression. Perhaps we should consider termination, Vexhari suggested, though her scientific curiosity made the words taste bitter. The High Council grows impatient with our lack of progress. The human suddenly stopped pacing and turned toward them. Even through the reinforced barriers, his dark eyes seemed to pierce directly into their consciousness. Most species would cower under such a gaze, but the Zephyrians had evolved beyond such primitive fear responses. "Wait," Vexenri said, her voice carrying an odd tremor. "Look at readout 7. The biometric display showed something unprecedented. When the human had locked eyes with them, his stress hormones had actually decreased. His heart rate had slowed to what their database indicated was a resting state for a species. Every previous interaction had triggered fight-or-flight responses that maxed out their monitoring equipment. Fascinating, Vexhari murmured. Run a full neural scan immediately. As the scanning beams activated, the human did something that shattered 47 cycles of behavioral patterns. He sat down on the floor of his habitat, crossed his legs, and closed his eyes. The aggressive posture melted away, replaced by something the Zephyrian computers struggled to categorize. The results appeared on their screens moments later. The human's brain activity had shifted into patterns they had never recorded from a species. The regions associated with violence and territorial behavior had gone quiet, while areas linked to empathy and social bonding blazed with activity. "This is impossible," Vexenri whispered. "According to our models, his species lacks the neural pathways for such advanced emotional regulation." Dr. Vexhari felt a chill run through her respiratory system. "Unless our models are wrong." 3 cycles later, everything changed. Dr. Zinkura burst into the laboratory, her normally pristine uniform disheveled and her breathing rapid. "Emergency evacuation protocols are in effect. Hostile vessels detected at the system perimeter. The Korthak Dominion had found them. The warrior species had been hunting Zephyrian research stations for months, seeking to capture advanced technology for their expansion campaigns. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, and their hunger for conquest legendary throughout the galaxy. "How long until they reach us?" Vexhari asked, her hands already moving to secure critical data. 12 standard hours, maybe less. Transport ships are en route, but they cannot carry everyone. Priority goes to essential personnel and critical research subjects. Vexhari's eyes turned toward the human habitat. By all protocols, savage creatures were expendable during emergency evacuations. But 47 cycles of study had created an attachment she had not expected to feel. "The human comes with us," she declared. "Absolutely not," Zinkara replied. "Containment protocols require specialized equipment we cannot spare. The creature stays." As if sensing the conversation's direction, the human opened his eyes and stood. He approached the barrier between them and placed his hand against the transparent surface. For the first time since his capture, he spoke in the primitive vocalizations his species called language. The translation came through their universal communicators with crystalline clarity. Danger coming. I can help. Zinkara's 4 eyes widened in shock. It understands our situation? The human continued speaking, his words measured and calm. I know you see me as savage. Your people fear what they do not understand. But fear makes creatures do terrible things to survive. You have been kind to me here, fed me, gave me shelter. I remember kindness. Dr. Vexhari felt her world shift on its axis. This was not the mindless aggression their models predicted. This was complex reasoning, emotional processing, and something their science had declared impossible in primitive species: genuine gratitude. The containment field is failing, Vexhari reported, her voice barely above a whisper. Power fluctuations from the evacuation protocols. They all watched as the barriers flickered and died. For 47 cycles, those walls had been the only thing preventing the savage creature from reaching them. Now nothing stood between the Zephyrians and the most dangerous predator they had ever encountered. The human stepped out of his habitat slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. He looked at each of them in turn, and Dr. Vexhari realized she was holding her breath. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to call security, to activate emergency protocols. Instead, the human knelt on the laboratory floor and extended his hands outward, palms up, in what their cultural database identified as a gesture of submission and peace from numerous species across the galaxy. My name is Marcus Chun, he said softly. I was a teacher on my world. I taught children about the stars and dreamed of the day we might meet other races among them. I never imagined it would happen like this. The laboratory fell silent except for the distant hum of evacuation alarms. 3 of the galaxy's most advanced scientists stared at the primitive savage who had just introduced himself with more dignity and grace than many civilized species could manage. Dr. Chun, Vexhari said finally, testing the strange syllables of his name. What kind of help can you offer? Marcus Chun stood and walked to the main display showing the approaching Korthak vessels. His eyes studied the tactical information with an intensity that made their computers seem sluggish by comparison. I have spent 47 days watching how your people think, how your technology works, how your society functions. You are brilliant beyond anything my species has achieved, but you think like prey animals. You plan for escape, for hiding, for survival. The Korthak think like predators. He turned back to face them, and Dr. Vexhari saw something in his expression that their behavioral models had never predicted from a savage creature. She saw the mind of a strategist, a protector, someone who had spent a lifetime teaching children how to be better than their base instincts. To defeat predators, Marcus Chun said quietly, sometimes you need another predator. Dr. Zinkara activated her communication device with trembling manipulator arms. Cancel the evacuation transport for Sector 7. We have a new research priority. Outside the laboratory windows, the first Korthak scouts appeared as distant points of light against the alien stars. None of them could have imagined that the arrival of humanity's first ambassador to the galaxy would begin not with diplomacy or trade agreements, but with a human teacher preparing to show 3 advanced civilizations what their species did best. They adapted, they protected, and, when necessary, they became the monster that other monsters fear to face. The savage creature they had captured was about to teach the galaxy a lesson about the difference between brutality and justice, between mindless violence and protective fury. Marcus Chun looked out at the approaching enemy fleet and smiled with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent years preparing young minds to face an uncertain universe. The Korthak Dominion was about to learn why humanity had never developed prey behaviors in their evolution. They had never needed them. They had always been the predator species that other predators avoided. The command center of Research Station Kepler 442b buzzed with frantic activity as Korthak vessels closed the distance. Marcus Chun stood beside the central holographic display, his presence creating an odd calm among the panicking Zephyrian technicians. Dr. Vexhari watched him study their defensive capabilities with the methodical patience of someone solving a complex puzzle. "Your shield generators are impressive," Marcus said, pointing to the energy readings. "But you have positioned them for research protection, not combat. The Korthak will target the weak points here, here, and here." His finger traced vulnerable areas that their own military advisors had somehow missed. Commander Talvek, the station's security chief, bristled at having strategy explained by a primitive creature. "Our defensive protocols have been tested against multiple scenarios. I hardly think a savage from an uncontacted world understands Korthak battle tactics." Marcus turned to face the commander, and Dr. Vexhari noticed the subtle shift in his posture. The relaxed teacher disappeared, replaced by something far more dangerous. "Commander, your people have been at peace for 300 years. The Korthak have been at war for 3,000. Which of us do you think better understands violence?" Before Talvek could respond, the proximity alarm screamed through the station. The main display shifted to show 12 Korthak battleships dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Each vessel bristled with weapons that could reduce the research station to debris in minutes. "Incoming transmission," announced the communications officer, her voice tight with fear. The holographic display shifted to show war leader Gexmoth of the Korthak Dominion. His scarred exoskeleton and predatory mandibles had terrorized dozens of worlds. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of absolute authority. "Zephyrian researchers, you will surrender all technology and personnel within 1 standard hour. Resistance will result in complete destruction. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Dr. Vexhari felt her respiratory system struggle as the reality of their situation set in. The Korthak gave no second chances, took no prisoners, and showed no mercy to those they deemed inferior. "We should transmit our surrender," Commander Talvek said, his earlier bravado evaporating. "Perhaps they will be merciful if we cooperate fully." "They will not," Marcus said with quiet certainty. "I have studied your cultural database. The Korthak do not understand mercy. They see it as weakness. Surrender will only ensure that your deaths are slower and more painful." Dr. Vexendrick joined the conversation, her 4 eyes bright with desperate hope. "Then, what do you suggest, Dr. Chun? Our weapons are designed for research, not warfare. Our ships are built for exploration, not combat. We are scientists, not warriors." Marcus walked to the tactical display and began manipulating the holographic controls with surprising skill. "You are right about your limitations, but you are wrong about your strengths. Your people think in ways the Korthak cannot comprehend. You solve problems instead of simply smashing through them. You adapt and innovate instead of relying on brute force." His fingers danced across the control interface, highlighting various systems throughout the station. "Your gravitational research equipment, your quantum field generators, your planetary geology scanners. Individually, they are harmless scientific instruments. Together, properly coordinated, they become something else entirely." The display showed a complex web of interconnected systems that none of the Zephyrians had ever considered linking together. Marcus continued his explanation with the clear enthusiasm of a teacher sharing knowledge with eager students. "The Korthak will expect you to behave like prey. They will anticipate surrender or panicked flight. They will not expect you to turn your entire research station into the largest improvised weapon any of you have ever imagined." Dr. Vexhari stared at the display in growing amazement. "You want us to overload the gravitational generators to create a localized space-time distortion. Use the quantum field projectors to amplify the effect. The geological scanners could map the distortion field in real time to maintain stability." "Exactly," Marcus smiled. "But we need to make them come closer first. Predators are confident, especially when they believe their prey is helpless. We use that confidence against them. Over the next 40 minutes, Marcus Chun transformed from captive savage to battlefield commander. He coordinated teams of Zephyrian scientists with the efficiency of someone who had spent years managing classrooms full of chaotic young minds. Dr. Vexhari found herself following his instructions without question, her scientific training recognizing the elegant logic of his improvised strategy. The Korthak fleet approached with textbook precision, their ships arranged in a hunting formation that had conquered dozens of systems. War leader Gexmoth transmitted again, his patience clearly wearing thin. Time expires. Researchers, prepare for boarding operations. Marcus activated the station's communications array himself, his voice calm and measured. War leader Gexmoth, I am Marcus Chun, representative of the human species. I offer myself in exchange for the lives of the researchers on this station. The effect was immediate and electric. Every Korthak ship in the fleet altered course to converge on their position. Dr. Vexhari watched the display in horror as the enemy vessels accelerated toward them. What have you done? Commander Talvek demanded. You have doomed us all. No, Marcus replied quietly. I have given them exactly what they want most. A new species to conquer, a new world to claim. The Korthak have never encountered humans before. We represent the ultimate prize for a warrior culture built on conquest. War leader Gexmoth's image appeared again, his mandibles clicking with excitement. Human, your species will be a worthy addition to our slave worlds. You show courage in offering yourself. I will ensure your death is quick. Marcus stepped forward, his posture straight and defiant. I offer more than my life, war leader. I offer you something the Korthak Dominion has never possessed. I offer you Earth itself, location of the most dangerous warrior species this galaxy has ever produced. The silence that followed was deafening. Dr. Vexhari realized that Marcus had just painted a target on his entire homeworld, but she also saw the genius of his strategy. The Korthak were predators, and he had just offered them the ultimate hunt. Prove your species' worth, human, Gexmoth growled. Show me why I should spare your life long enough to learn the location of your world. Marcus Chin smiled, and Dr. Vexhari finally understood why her people's behavioral models had failed so completely. They had tried to categorize humanity based on their capacity for violence, but they had missed the crucial difference between mindless aggression and calculated protection. I will prove human worth, war leader. But first, allow me to demonstrate why my species survived long enough to reach the stars. Marcus activated the improvised weapon system they had built from research equipment. The gravitational generators spun up to maximum power, creating a localized distortion that grabbed 3 Korthak vessels and pulled them into collision courses with each other. The quantum field projectors amplified the effect, turning the distortion into a growing vortex of twisted space-time. The Korthak fleet scattered in confusion as their supposedly helpless prey revealed fangs they had never suspected existed. War leader Gexmoth's roar of fury echoed through the communications system as his carefully planned attack dissolved into chaos. Impossible, he screamed. No prey species could devise such a weapon. Marcus Chin's voice carried across the void with the quiet authority of someone who had spent a lifetime teaching children that intelligence and preparation could overcome any challenge. That is your first lesson about humanity, war leader. We are not prey. We never have been. And any species that mistakes our desire for peace as a sign of weakness learns that lesson only once. The Korthak fleet regrouped, but their formation was broken and their confidence shattered. Dr. Vexhari realized that Marcus had accomplished something remarkable. He had not only saved their lives, but had fundamentally altered the balance of power in this encounter. The savage creature had become the predator, and the galaxy's most feared warriors had just discovered they were no longer at the top of the food chain. The gravitational vortex dissipated, leaving 3 Korthak vessels as twisted metal debris floating in the void. War leader Gexmoth stared at the tactical display in his command center, his predatory mind struggling to process what had just occurred. In 3,000 years of conquest, no prey species had ever turned the hunters into the hunted. Marcus Chun stood in the research station's command center, watching the remaining Korthak ships maintain their distance. Dr. Vexhari approached him cautiously, her scientific mind racing to understand the transformation she had witnessed. Dr. Chun, she said softly, what you just accomplished should have been impossible. Our computer models show no scenario where improvised research equipment could defeat military-grade Korthak vessels. Marcus turned to face her, and she saw something in his expression that their behavioral databases had never categorized. It was not the bloodlust they had expected from savage species, nor the fear they had observed in prey animals. It was the calm satisfaction of a teacher whose students had finally grasped a difficult concept. Your models assumed that violence and intelligence were opposing forces, he explained. On Earth, we learned something different. The greatest warriors are not those who love destruction, but those who understand it completely. Violence is a tool, Dr. Vexhari. Like any tool, it can be used with precision or swung blindly. The communication array crackled to life again. War leader Gexmoth's image appeared, but his previous confidence had been replaced by something the Zephyrians had never seen in a Korthak before: uncertainty. Human Marcus Chun. The war leader spoke with forced respect. Your species has demonstrated tactical capabilities beyond our initial assessment. Perhaps we should discuss terms. Terms, Marcus replied calmly. What terms does a predator offer to another predator, war leader? The question hung in space like a challenge. Dr. Vexhari realized that Marcus had fundamentally altered the dynamic of this encounter. The Korthak no longer saw themselves as hunters facing prey. They were now predators who had encountered something they did not recognize or understand. You claim to represent a warrior species, Gexmoth said carefully. Prove it. Single combat between champions. If you win, we withdraw. If I win, your location dies with you, and these researchers become our slaves. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying the war leader's scarred exoskeleton through the holographic display. Dr. Vexhari felt her respiratory system struggle as she realized what he was considering. Dr. Chun, she whispered urgently, Korthak warriors are biologically enhanced for combat. Their exoskeletons can withstand weapons fire. Their reflexes are 3 times faster than baseline humanoid species. This is not a battle you can win. Marcus smiled with the same patience he had shown when explaining complex scientific concepts to his students back on Earth. Dr. Vexhari, you are still thinking like a scientist. You see the war leader's advantages and assume they determine the outcome. But you're missing the most important factor, which is, Commander Talvek asked, his voice tight with fear. Experience, Marcus replied simply. The war leader has fought thousands of battles against species that think like him. Creatures that rely on strength, speed, and aggression. He has never faced someone who thinks like a human. Marcus activated the communication array before anyone could protest further. I accept your challenge, war leader Gexmoth. Single combat, no weapons, aboard your flagship. When I win, you will withdraw your entire fleet from Zephyrian space and never return. The war leader's mandibles clicked with anticipation. When I crush your bones, human, I will add your world to my list of conquests. Prepare to be transported. As the Korthak transport beam engaged, Dr. Vexhari felt a desperation she had never experienced before. 47 days ago, she had viewed Marcus Chun as a savage creature suitable only for behavioral experiments. Now she was watching someone she had come to respect walk willingly toward what seemed like certain death. The transport completed, and the main display shifted to show the interior of the Korthak flagship. The combat arena was a circular chamber surrounded by cheering warrior caste Korthak, their voices raised in bloodthirsty anticipation. War leader Gexmoth entered from one side, his massive form towering over the human who waited in the center. Marcus Chun looked impossibly small in comparison to the Korthak champion. His simple research station clothing stood in stark contrast to Gexmoth's battle-scarred armor. But as Dr. Vexhari watched through the transmission. She noticed something that the cheering warriors had missed. Marcus was not afraid. He was studying his opponent with the same methodical attention he had given to their defensive systems. "Begin!" Gexmoth roared, charging forward with speed that blurred the transmission. Marcus did not try to match the war leader's speed or strength. Instead, he did something that shattered 3,000 years of Korthak combat doctrine. He stepped aside at the last possible moment, used the war leader's own momentum against him, and guided the massive warrior into the arena wall with a technique that looked almost gentle. The chamber fell silent as Gexmoth struggled to understand what had happened. His charge should have crushed the human instantly. Instead, he found himself embedded in a wall while his opponent stood calmly in the center of the arena. "Impossible," the war leader snarled, pulling himself free. "You cannot have such reflexes. Your species lacks our evolutionary advantages." Marcus Chen's voice carried clearly through the arena, reaching every Korthak warrior present. "War leader, you have made the same mistake as these researchers. You assumed that evolution only creates one type of strength." He began to circle the arena slowly, his movements flowing like water around stone. "Your species evolved to be the perfect predator. Stronger, faster, more aggressive than your prey. But my species evolved something different. We learned to survive not by being the strongest, but by being the smartest." Gexmoth charged again, his claws extended and mandibles snapping. Marcus flowed around the attack like he was dancing, never quite where the war leader expected him to be. Each missed strike sent the massive Korthak stumbling, off balance, and increasingly frustrated. Dr. Vexhari watched in amazement as she realized what Marcus was doing. He was not fighting the war leader at all. He was teaching him a lesson about the difference between power and effectiveness. "Your people conquered the galaxy through strength," Marcus continued, his breathing still calm and controlled while Gexmoth began to show signs of exhaustion. "But strength without wisdom is just destruction. You take what others build because you never learn to create anything yourselves." The war leader's attacks grew wilder, more desperate. His warrior's pride demanded victory. But every strike met only empty air while the human's voice continued its patient explanation. "Humans learned something different during our evolution. We learned that the greatest strength comes not from destroying your enemies, but from understanding them so completely that they defeat themselves." As if to demonstrate his point, Marcus finally moved directly toward Gexmoth instead of away. But he moved at precisely the moment when the war leader was overcommit to an attack, when his own momentum would carry him into vulnerability. Marcus guided the massive warrior into a hold that used the Korthak's own strength against him, applying pressure to joints and nerve clusters that no amount of armor could protect. War leader Gexmoth, champion of 1,000 battles, found himself immobilized by a creature he could have crushed with one hand. The arena fell completely silent as the implication sank in. "I could end your life now," Marcus said quietly. "Your own strength holds you in this position. But that would make me no different from the savage creature your people believe me to be." He released the hold and stepped back, offering his hand to help the war leader stand. The gesture sent shock waves through the Korthak fleet that would be felt for generations. "This is what humans offer the galaxy," war leader Gexmoth. "Not conquest, but cooperation. Not destruction, but the chance to build something greater than any of us could achieve alone." The war leader stared at the offered hand for a long moment before accepting it. As he stood, his worldview shifted in ways that 3,000 years of warfare had never accomplished. "The Korthak Dominion withdraws," he announced to his warriors. "This human has proven that true strength lies not in taking life, but in choosing when to spare it." Later, as the Korthak fleet departed and normal operations resumed aboard the research station, Dr. Vexhari found Marcus Chun in the observation lounge, watching the alien stars through the viewport. "Dr. Chun," she said carefully, "our computer models predicted that your species would react to captivity with mindless violence. Instead, You have taught us something about the nature of civilization itself." Marcus smiled, the same expression he had worn when teaching children about the wonders of the universe. "Dr. Vexhari, your models were not entirely wrong. Humans are capable of terrible violence when threatened, but we are also capable of something your databases did not account for, which is choice." Marcus replied simply. "Every human has the capacity for both creation and destruction. What makes us civilized is not the absence of our savage nature, but our decision to use that nature in service of something greater." Dr. Vexhari processed this information, her scientific mind racing with new possibilities. "And what you choose now, Dr. Chun? We can arrange transport to return you to your homeworld." Marcus Chun looked out at the stars for a long moment before answering. "I choose to stay, Dr. Vexhari. My species is going to join this galactic community eventually. When that happens, I want to make sure the galaxy understands what we really are." "And what is that?" "We are the species that dreams of reaching the stars, and then find a way to make those dreams reality. We are the civilization that looks at the vast darkness of space and chooses to fill it with light. Most importantly, we are the people who believe that every sapient being deserves the chance to become something better than their worst impulses." As the research station resumed its mission among the stars, Dr. Vexhari began composing her report to the Zephyrian High Council. The savage creature they had captured had taught them something profound about the nature of strength, wisdom, and the choices that define true civilization. Humanity was coming to the galaxy, and they would arrive not as conquerors or supplicants, but as teachers ready to show the cosmos what a truly advanced species could become when they chose cooperation over conquest, understanding over destruction, and hope over fear. The aftermath had surprised everyone, most of all the humans themselves, who had never realized that their greatest strength lay not in their capacity for violence, but in their determination to use that capacity wisely.